Okay, so I am here to do another tutorial for you guys on how to do simple shadows. A lot of people ask me about this. I tend not to do tutorials because I'm really bad and I tend to ramble. Um, but I know about a year ago or so, I had a video on my IGTV um, about shadows, and it's been a year now, so I definitely changed some of my techniques. And with my recent picture, this one, a lot of you liked the shadows and wanted to know how I created such realistic shadows, etc., etc. So I'm just here to give you some basic tips on what I do personally with shadows and how I do them now. A lot of people tend to think that shadows are hard or very complicated and they just don't know how to make them realistic enough, etc., etc. But if you do simple tricks, you can amp up your pictures to look a little better. So here we go. So first things first, when I take a picture in Second Life, I am an ultra. This picture is ultra, right? And I this is a size down picture because I take my pictures in about the maximum that my computer can take, which is about like 6,000 by something. 6,144 by 3,000. So yeah, but this is a size down version and it's now 954 by 1036. Okay, so I do take my pictures in ultra, but I take off ambient occlusion and all this other stuff. Like I take off the shadows that SL creates when you go into ultra, and I leave it blank. If you're from IMVU, you know when you take a high res screenshot, you're kind of this is what you get. It's just a plain background with your avatar like this, simple lighting, like no shadowless rooms. Think about it like a shadowless room in IMVU if you are from IMVU. I don't like shadows. I do them myself because I feel like they don't really look good enough for me. If you're taking a picture that you're just gonna use like a in-world picture, that's fine. But if you're doing editing for me personally, I don't like shadows because I like creating my own. So let me just get my pen here and I will start with this. Okay, so always a new layer. That is first and foremost. Okay, so first thing is first, what you want to do is try to um, think about where you want your shadow to be. So, for instance, I want my sunlight to come from here. So that means that light is going to be hitting this, basically all this right here, and then it's going to cast the shadow like here and like here, etc., etc. And you can do that without creating such crazy shadows. Like you don't have to have this all dark, no, because it's not realistic enough. You have to think about it realistically. Like for instance, this right here, um, he's outside, he's at the beach, right? There's a lot of light. There's light coming from here, come here. Um, so you can't really um, think about just one, like you can't really just assume that he's not gonna have that all of this is gonna be dark because it's not true. Because he has light coming from here, but the main light source is coming from here. Um, but because he's outside and it's the sun, he also has sun from here, 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 a little bit over here. But then over here, towards the bottom, is casting shadow. You can see, and there's always gonna be a shadow right here because his arm is behind his his back, just like here. I'm not gonna I didn't shadow this because it's not fully covered. The only part that's really behind his back is this area right here. So you have to keep in mind what type of scenery you're in, and yeah. If you are kind of doing like a photo shoot, like a spotlight, maybe you just want the light to be hitting the face, then yeah, it's gonna bounce off as well. It's gonna bounce off everywhere, and then it's gonna create a shadow like down here, but also like around him. So it's just gonna focus here, and then there's gonna be shadow all around him. So you have to think about that too. Um, it's more complicated than it sounds, but let me just not confuse any of you guys with that. If you do have questions, I am free to answer your questions. So I'm just going to get right into this. Okay, so I always start with the neck. And my favorite tool in Photoshop is this tool right here. It's called the pen tool. I think this is Photoshop CC19. It's different. It kind of shows you, if you hover over it, kind of shows you what the tools do individually. Um, if you have an older version, I don't think they do that, but or you can also just YouTube it and you'll see. But basically, what I use this for is to clean up the lines and to get rid of the backgrounds. Because I don't sometimes when I use the magic wand tool, and you can use it. Um, you can use it, it's no problem, but you still have jagged lines, and I don't like that. I like to have my lines clean cut so I won't have to worry about them at the end. So what I do is I start outlining the face, and you just click a spot, then you click here and you drag. Pretty sure a lot of you know how to use the pen tool. And then you just drag, drag, drag. Go around his face, around the neck area, kind of just to define his jaw and his neck. And then you're going to close it off. You're going to make selection, these settings, and click OK. So what I like to do on a new layer, I like to fill this just in case I have to go back. I'll have that. I'll have the selection, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't really like that. I wish I could redo it. So I just go back here to make the selection, and I go here, even if it's hidden. I click Control and I click the picture, and it'll highlight the selection. Okay, so again, new layer, and as you can see, I didn't really outline the neck perfectly. So what I'm going to do is go to this, duplicate the layer, and I'm going to go to my smudge tool, and I'm just going to push and just going to smudge the neck a little bit, just kind of get it nice and neat, get rid of these little red lines around his face. Don't know why that's happening. And then you're going to right click, select inverse, and you can use a an eraser, or actually I was just using a hard brush, a hard round brush eraser, just to clean up the lines right there. And I'm doing this just to get rid of the background as well. But when it gets to this part, I'll go back to the smudge tool and I'll just click up to clean up the lines. Just clean up this area right here. It's like that. And you can see, cleaner, cleaner. We love that. Okay, so we're gonna select that thing again. And like I said, I already knew that I wanted my light source to come from up here to the right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my paint brush or brush tool, and I'm going to select a hard round brush. And I usually do a dark brown color. And then what I'm going to do is just select inverse. And I'm just going to paint this a little bit and then get thicker as I go down. Like that. Okay, that's good. And then if you go over here to your layers panel and you mess with the opacity, bring it down a little bit. Look at that. you can kind of already see the shadow. Before, I used to kind of not be into really sharp, like straight lines because I personally felt like it wasn't realistic enough. But like clearly you didn't know. I mean, there's all types of shadows. So I'm just gonna clean up, and then when I'm erasing the shadows, I'm gonna try to go to a soft brown brush and just kind of clean up. This right here, obviously, that doesn't make no sense. So I just like to kind of get rid of this, but still leave that part right there. And you can mess with the opacity. You can see it's creating a shadow. Of course, you're gonna have to, for this, I have to clean up the neck because the new legacy body, so it's not compatible Omega. But boom, you see that? Right, for this tutorial, I'm just gonna get rid of the background because I don't have time for that. But as you can see, created a nice simple shadow on the neck, and I always start on the neck, and it's super clean. The line is super clean and crisp, and that's what I like. You know, I like really crisp lines, and sometimes I do double shadows just to kind of. Oh wait, that's not a double shadow. It's just this. Duh. And then you see, it's just a quick, sharp line. Okay, so I'll go even further for you guys. You can make a new layer. And remember I said the light source is coming from the top right, so there's going to be a shadow casting kind of here around this region. So what I like to do is I grab my polygonal tool. I'm guessing, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And I just kind of do this around the nose, and then like that. And I'll fill it with the same color I did. Again, back to the opacity. Mess with the opacity. I try to keep it the same as this, so I'll 30 there and I'll do 30 here. Um, and then I'll kind of smudge this, kind of drag it over here. I'll erase it around this eye area. And I'll keep smudging over here. Like that. I don't like this shadow. So that's how I do my shadows nowadays. This could be worked on. This is like my third time. I recorded this yesterday, and when I was done with it, I realized there was no sound. So you can imagine I'm kind of already over it. I don't feel like doing this stuff again, so I'm not even gonna do it. But that's how you do it. It's really simple. This, I don't really like it because it's not as sharp over here, so I'm going to try that again to just show you guys how it can be improved. Back to this tool. Hold on, let's go here. That right there. Alright, I'm just going to drag that part right there. Damn it, it's not coming out the same. See, it's a lot of trial and error. I mean, I go through this stuff too. And always zoom out. Never just think that all your work is gonna be perfect if you're all the way zoomed in. You have to keep zooming out and zooming in to make sure it's coming out right. I personally don't like this. I like this part right here, but not so much this part. So maybe I can just do that and then fill that. Yeah, I'll have to work on that. Um, Maybe make it smaller. No, it's too big. just whatever looks realistic, and always zoom out and zoom in. It's not too bad. You can kind of see the line. And then we're going to take it a step further and just kind of create a shadow down here. Layer, fill bucket. And then right there. See? Simple. And then if you keep at it, keep going, lots of trial and error, you'll eventually just end up with normal shadows like that. Um, it will look weird, I guess, at first, but in retrospect, if this is what you're going, if you're going for really sharp lines and stuff, then you should be good. Um, like I said before, I used to think that shadows were supposed to be blurry, that they weren't too sharp, etc., which in some case that is, in some cases that is true. But if, because a lot of you were asking me about this type of specific shadows, um, and this is how I do my shadows nowadays, I thought it would be better if I showed you how I do them now. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys found that tutorial helpful. Here's the before and after. See, without shadows, plain. With the add shadows, you just add it, and if you keep editing it and keep editing it, eventually it'll look like you took a picture in a cell with shadows. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I hope this tutorial helped you guys. I'm not really good at this stuff, so I hope it made sense. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Bye, guys.